Seth Kaplan is managing partner of Airline Weekly, and not to pile too much on the CEO, he did at first blame the passenger. I mean, that was his first go-around when he sent that memo.
They kept this story alive way longer than they had to. I mean, the things that they said today, you know, they might have had all the details back then, but that's all they had to say, at least in general terms back then, is, look, you know, employees were following some rules in a vacuum.
They were also they weren't really employees of United, were they? Weren't they? They were some law enforcement at the airport.
Yeah, I mean, the flight itself was operated by a regional airline for United. You had, the security people from the airport involved. But all he had to say is, look, there were people, you know, in a vacuum following rules that might have made some sense on some level. But when you added it all up, we did the wrong thing. You know, and I'm the CEO, and I didn't give them the tools to do the right thing. And that's what he's saying now.
A couple things bother me. They have this $10,000 limit. They don't have to have a limit. I mean, they could actually have an auction. They don't have to put that $10,000. They had a, you know. So I'm like, why do they have to have a limit? You know, maybe they'll never have to pay $5,000, but I don't like that limit. The second thing is, I want to know how much she was paid, just because I'm curious, and I realize you can have confidential agreements. I did it all the time as a lawyer, but I would love to see their SEC quarterly filing to see what, you know, see how much, you know, if I were a shareholder, I'm not, how much that they're paying this person, if it's limited, if it's itemized like that, or others.
You can bet, Greta, and you know as well as I do, that they paid a big premium for this to get settled today. United needs this to be the last night that you and I are sitting here talking about United in this context, right? They need this to go away. They need, you know, on the same day that they came out with the reforms, this to just be the last time anybody's talking about this. The story has just gone on far too long for them. And I'm sure that, you know, whatever extra they paid him, they calculated that that's just worth it in terms of, you know, getting their reputation back in shape, because this has cost them a lot of money, more than just the settlement.
But I bet they didn't lose a passenger over this, because, you know, we passengers, we don't have many options, and so it's a, you know, you don't have much choice. Now you at least have some grumbling, or, you know, like some complaining. But for the most part, is that, you know, with all the mergers of these airlines, and especially these regional markets, there really is no choice.
You know, in a black and white sense, no. And when people say, "Oh, you boycott United," it's not like you're going to get on a plane; it's going to be empty. But all things being equal, you know, when you're United, when you're trying to present yourself as a premium airline, there are people who have choices, especially when you're flying between big cities. You know, and if you're getting a few dollars less per passenger because people are flying Delta instead, which by the way is kind of what's been happening the past few years, that's a problem for United.
But if all they do is have better service, be on time, don't lose the bags. I mean, how about a clean plane? I mean, even some of those things, like, you know, sort of nice to get into a seat and have it clean, not have the trash there.
And that's the most important things. And by the way, kind of in those routine ways, they've been doing a better job. They had bottomed out a few years ago. They are more punctual. They are losing fewer bags. But then this comes out and really kind of resets the clock for them, because it takes a time for that perception to catch up with the reality, for people to say, this airline's not so bad anymore. Now it's going to take a little while longer.
I do want to say this, though, emphasize it, is that there are thousands of employees at United that had nothing to do with this. Every single day do a great job and move people, and it's safe and everything else. These weren't even, you know, United employees, but I always want to be careful. It's just a couple.
Yeah, and even in this case, Greta, I mean, they're here trying to get the crew to meet another flight, so they ain't cancel a flight. You know, in a vacuum, they're trying to do the right thing, but it all added up to an awful situation for that passenger.
Seth, thank you. Still ahead, is Ivanka Trump striking a very different tone on a very big issue?